powerhouse, Von Radio, for Speak Up, a social commentary talk show that addresses the state of affairs on Nevis. Expect great conversations, different perspectives, and an all-inclusive approach to moving Nevis forward. Tune in. It's time for us to speak up.
It's time for us to speak up. It is another Thursday evening. Today is March 24th, 2022. And I'm Jaedee Caines, and alongside me is Mr. Rohan. And we are here each and every Thursday night for Speak Up. As the intro suggested, it's a social commentary talk show, and we aim to keep you up to date and informed about what's happening locally, at the national level, as well as regionally and sometimes internationally. I'll go across the table and say good evening to my colleague Rohan. Rohan, good evening.
Good evening, Jaedee. Good evening to our listeners, our regular listeners, and to those who are joining us for the first time. Jaedee, how are you? It's another Thursday.
Yes, it's another Thursday. It seems like Thursday is coming really quickly.
Very fast. Very fast.
But I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I came from another funeral today. It seems as if I told someone today that it looks like every Thursday, almost every Thursday, I'm at a funeral. But I'm doing good now. It's standing.
Yeah, it's good to be on another edition of Speaker. Of course, as always, we begin by extending congratulations to those who are celebrating, be it a wedding anniversary or birthday or any particular reason to celebrate. We are happy that you are with us, and we continue to pray and hope the best for you. For those who are mourning, for whatever reason, whatever difficulty, whatever challenge you may be facing, our thoughts and our prayers are with you. Of course, as Jaedee said, today we lay to rest our very good friend to most of us, well known and well loved, and so we continue to hold the Farrell family in our prayers and in our thoughts, and to all others who would have had to say final farewells.
Yes.
We want to continue to encourage you to hold on to God's unchanging hand. Jaedee, what's on the table for today?
Well, Rohan, before we get into the meat of our discussions, I want to congratulate our athletes who, some didn't do as well as they wanted to, but I thought personally that they did a pretty good job, considering that they have been out of it for quite some time. So I just want to congratulate the athletes who participated in last Saturday, or was it last Sunday? Last Sunday's Carifta Trials in St. Kitts. We had quite a few from the island of Nevis traveling over to St. Kitts from the Charlestown Secondary School, the Gingerland Secondary School, as well as some from the various clubs, athletic clubs on the island. And we want to say heartiest congratulations to them, and just continue to put in the work, and you will reap the rewards in due time. I'm told that this Saturday they will be at the Nevis Athletic Stadium, aka Mondo Track. I think it's time that we change the name, but anyway, we have to complete the stadium first, and I have a name in mind, Rohan, but let's complete it first. But anyway, I'm told that this Saturday we'll have Carifta Trials Part 2 over there at the Nevis Athletic Stadium. So I want to encourage persons to go on out on Saturday. Quite a bit happening on Saturday, but if you're able to stop by and just offer some encouragement to our athletes from Nevis, and of course those who are coming over from St. Kitts as well, because when they leave here, if they do qualify, they'll be representing St. Kitts and Nevis. So it's important that we encourage them. We are hoping that we can get some of them qualifying and able to move on to the Carifta level. It's a great opportunity for them. Rohan, last week we had at the ETW Park Masharama 2022. It's a fusion of Guyanese and Nevisian cultures. So in Guyana, one of their celebrations is dubbed Masharami, and of course, here on the island of Nevis we have Culturama. So a few years ago they came up with the idea of mixing them and having Masharama. And so this year we had that celebration at the ETW Park last Saturday. It was a wonderful celebration. I was able to stop by and take in some of the cricket match. I got a bit of the domino, but the cricket match really had me because they went into a super over. And I'm told that it was the first time in Masharama history that had happened. So congratulations once again to, we had Big Rock and we had Young Guns. Yeah, 2 teams, one from Nevis, one from St. Kitts, doing pretty well last Saturday, and it was the first ever Masharama Cup domino competition last Saturday as well. And so we say congratulations to O'Neill Hines and Devon Wood and all of the others who continue to contribute to Masharama year after year, the Guyanese community here on Nevis. And I'm told that they have since picked up some divisions who are helping to coordinate the activity. So all in all, it was a wonderful activity, great celebration. Man, the vibes was nice, really nice.
Yeah, I mean, I had the privilege of attending a few of those. At one, I did some MC. It's always a listen when you hang out with Guyanese.
Yes.
Listen, it's a different atmosphere. It's a different vibe. I mean, it's lively from beginning to end.
Correct.
So, I didn't expect anything different. Unfortunately, this year I wasn't able to attend, commitments otherwise, but from all indication I understand it went extremely well. And isn't it a wonderful thing when as brothers and sisters from across the region in many varying cultures and backgrounds can come together and celebrate. And it must be something wonderful about Nevis that our Guyanese brothers and sisters can find it so easy to say, well, listen, we're going to fuse 2 of the largest festivals in respective cultures, Culturam and Masharami, and celebrate a oneness, a unique blend, and that is exceptional. I don't know how long it's been going on, but
I think this year was the 8th year.
8th year.
Yes.
And so, continue to wish it well and get it bigger and better each year. Maybe hopefully we can get it closer to culture, that, a nice introduction to the beginning of Culturama.
One of the things I miss, perhaps because we haven't had Culturama in a while, but I always looked forward to that food fair, not the traditional food fair. I look forward to that too. But what used to happen was after Culturama, the St. George and St. John branch of the Anglican Church used to have a cultural food fair with dishes from varying Caribbean islands.
Yes.
I absolutely loved that. And I think this is something that we need to do a little bit more of here in Nevis, considering that we have so many cultures here, some in larger numbers than others, but it's good to get an appreciation for your brothers and sisters who are among you. Now, one of the things I realize, when you get to understand, or when you're exposed to certain things from certain cultures, you get a better appreciation. And so we lessen the discrimination. Persons from other nationalities get an appreciation for the Nevisian culture and how we do things. We get an appreciation for other cultures and how they do things. You don't necessarily have to do what they do,
right?
But it's good when you can see what they do and they can see what we do, and you understand. You get an appreciation. So it's not a surprise, I always believe that works.
Yeah, and we have so many varying cultures here among us. I mean, I'm sure people would be surprised to know so many backgrounds in terms of where people come from here. And so that activity, I think it was because of COVID they hadn't had that. But I mean, it's an opportunity now to return and to expand.
Yes.
Of course, we have so many of our African brothers and sisters among us as well. We have some Haitians here.
Yes.
And it is, listen, understanding culture from across the region. It's an exciting prospect. And speaking from a teaching background, we used to have so much fun engaging in projects that allowed students to go a little deeper into understanding and appreciating the cultures that are part of that melting pot of Caribbean cultures. And so, I mean, I support any activity that is going to allow our people to truly be one with each other.
Awesome. Now, Rohan, out of Masharama 2022, coming out of it, we felt a vibe.
Yeah.
It was nice. It was exciting, and it was just a vibe. I didn't want to leave, but because I know that I had something to do this Sunday, You know, at about 10 o'clock, I said, boy, let me come go home, see? But, and I had to go to church, and I had other things to do this Sunday. But it was really, really good. It was really, really good from all accounts. I experienced it. It was really good. And from what others told me, they themselves had a good time. My daughter said she had a great time. So coming out of Masharama, I think everyone was on a particular level, a particular hype. It was really good. We had remarks from both of the major political parties on the island of Nevis, because we had the Premier of Nevis, who is a member of the Concerned Citizens Movement. We had Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge, who is the leader of the Nevis Reformation Party. And I remember, as I hosted the ceremony, saying that I like the fact that there is a welcoming of varying backgrounds, not just culturally but politically as well, because we need to understand that certain things we have to, in certain aspects, we have to put the politics aside. And so I remember making that statement while on stage. Not long after, I don't remember if it was the next day or perhaps 2 days later, social media was buzzing with activity. There were statements that were made and comments that were made subsequent to those statements, and people, it seemed like there was a lot of tension. I felt the tension on social media, and for me it was quite sad, because this was coming after such a spectacular event. And in some cases, I mean, I try not to, because I don't want anybody to do it for me, speak for big people. So big people are capable of speaking for themselves. Most should be able to. And everybody that I know is involved here is able to speak for himself or herself. And so I will not attempt to speak for anybody. What I will say, though, as I said on social media, and I continue to say, because that is just how I believe, that is just how I operate, I want us to get to the point of understanding and seeing things and thinking for ourselves. Do not allow anybody to think for you or to change your way of thinking to hate somebody else. We need to understand that no one can choose where they want to be from. No one can choose what nationality they were born into, what island they were born on, what race they were born into. And so we need to always remember that. And we need to remember, especially those of us who have children, but even if you don't have children, you have loved ones, we need to treat people the way we want to be treated. And I'm speaking on both sides of the fence here, because I remember seeing a statement that suggested that the whole of NRP has something against persons of Guyanese nationality. And I took great offense, because I'm like, nobody could possibly think that I have an issue with anybody when I've tried my very best not to operate that way, because it's just not me. You know, you guys have heard me, well, maybe you didn't know, but one of my really close friends, who I am still mourning her loss, perhaps you didn't know, but she's a Guyanese national. She was a Guyanese national, you know, and there are many others. And so I was personally offended, because you had persons out there thinking that, oh my goodness, you're part of a party that hates us. Furthest thing from the truth. And we have to be careful, we have to be responsible in our way of speaking, because we don't want to give that impression. And some of us very well know that when we make statements, people are going to take it and it's going to create further division, and we use it to our advantage. And I have a problem with that. And I tell people all the time, whether you're blue, green, red, yellow, or any other color that has not been decided as yet, you don't get to dictate how you treat people, or whether you treat somebody like a human or an animal. You can't do that. And so this is where I just want to encourage all of us, and I speak inclusively because I'm including myself, to just be careful. Treat people, if you treat people how you want to be treated, you wouldn't have any problems. You don't have to go back and correct anything. You don't have to try to convince people that this is who you are. You don't have to try to convince people. You don't have to use something for political gain. treat people how you want to be treated. And while I'm on that, Rohan, allow me to say, you don't just treat persons of the non-national community how you want to be treated. You also need to treat your brothers and sisters of Nevis and St. Kitts how you want to be treated. Because I realize of late, we are getting so caught up in the talk about how we treat the non-national community. And we should discuss it. We are getting so caught up in it that it's almost like we forget that we need to treat each other with respect. And I am seeing a culture creeping in of blatant disrespect for each other. And we need to do better. And I know for sure, I tell people all the time, we don't have to agree. You don't have to like me, but you're not going to disrespect me. That is where we are going to draw the line.
Yeah.
And so, from this platform, just want to remind people to treat each other as we would want to be treated. Rohan.
You know, I saw the comment, I saw some posting, and I knew what the intent was. And there are certain things I read and I don't respond to because I don't think really and truly that it needs my response. Because people know me would understand, and I have long preached the position of humanity.
Correct.
And it is present everywhere.
Yes, you have.
You know, the problem is that we are always looking for a reason to justify our own mindset, if I may speak it like that. You know, you feel a certain way, whether it is about yourself or whatever experience you may have, and then you try to pass it off on everybody else.
Yes.
So you know, everybody's supposed to feel like you because you want to justify how you feel. You can't do that. And I mean, no matter where you're from, and I've said this a million times, when you are brought into this world, you're not brought into this world as a Guyanese, a Trinidadian, a Norwegian, a Kittian, American, a Jamaican. You're first brought into this world as a human.
Correct.
And that human element is a binding element. There is nothing so dissimilar between you and I as a human that would allow anybody to find it necessary to either disrespect or disparage the other person.
Correct.
And we really need not to go down those paths. And what is more disheartening to me is that this business of, and I say business, this political business of discussing the importance of non-nationals seem to have only a 5-year cycle.
Yes.
And we've got to stop the nonsense. And you know, I was having a conversation, and you know, I think the premise was that NRP, because it is so easy to use the broad brush philosophy that is going to rile up your base to say NRP this and NRP that. Because NRP don't like non-nationals. Okay. Well, I mean, let us look at how much, since that is the case, how much this government likes non-nationals. Is it the case that you like them so much that you disregard best practices in government to assure that they get what you think they should get because you're looking for political favor in return? Is it a case where now the non-nationals have equal and equitable access to London housing here in Nevis? Or are they still treated as non-nationals in that regard? Because you're not, what I get is that these are not humans for you. As far as I'm concerned, every 5 years you find it relevant to use them as political pawns.
Correct.
And you heighten your emotions against a political party who in the past, and there is no excuse for what was done. And at some point in time, and I've said this before, we make atonement and apologies for what may have happened that should not have happened. But we ought not to be placed in a position where we think we ought to apologize for following the laws.
Correct.
Fundamentally, every single country in this world have a set of laws that guides their immigration or migration policy. And we must not allow ourselves to be placed in a position where we are supposed to disregard those simply because somebody is trying to put one set of people against the other. If you go, Jaedee, and I don't want to use Ghana, if you go to America, because everybody uses that as an example, and you infringe on the laws of America, and you're found guilty, and the recourse is to ask you to leave. Okay. that is supposed to kindle a hatred inside of you?
Rohan, let's go even simpler. I can recall attending school in the United States Virgin Islands, an American territory. It wasn't myself alone. Many other kitchens and divisions, man, we were topping everything. And certain scholarships and opportunities we just couldn't get. Simply because we are not from here. Simply because we are not from here. And we were just as good. And in some cases better. And we just could not benefit.
That's just the nature of it.
You know, and I'm not saying I respect it. I didn't agree, but I respected it. Right? And it is the same way here. Until and unless our laws change, I go by the law. But definitely when it comes to the human element and the human component, I am going to treat you like a human being.
Exactly.
Because when I see you, I am not seeing your nationality, as Rohan correctly said. I am seeing that you are a human being.
You know, I mean, in life, not everybody is going to be the same, and we've got to accept that there are going to be people who just don't get it. The way you think they would. And I saw some comments that I totally disagreed with, and it really struck me because I don't see how people could be contented to say certain things about anybody.
Yes,
I don't care which nationality it is.
I agree.
You really just can't post things and feel that, oh, it is all well and good.
Yeah.
And we've got to get beyond those kind of things. I mean, for me, really, if it is a case where you look across and you say, boy, these are brothers and sisters from XY, and we understand that certain things are not, you know, the way they should be, and they have come here for what I call the vision dream. What policies and plans have you put in place?
Correct.
That would assist these very same people.
Correct.
That you're putting in front of us and saying that we don't like.
Correct.
What have you done?
Correct.
That you would say, boy, in the event that the NRP who don't like the non-nationals return to power, these policies are there fully guaranteed to ensure that the things that they say we may do, we can do.
We can do. Yes. And it's not just an election promise. It doesn't just come up every 5 years or every 4.5 years. Well, Rohan, we're going to switch the focus a bit. But I just want to remind persons that in one of our earlier shows, right here on Speak Up, Rohan and I spoke about the NRP's support and how the NRP was able to empower the non-national community when it held office years ago. And these are just, and Dr. Bartlett earlier this week, Dr. Patricia Bartlett, on Your Voice with the NRP right here on the Eastern Caribbean's Powerhouse, spoke at length about some of the ways in which the Nevis Reformation Party, when in government, was able to empower the non-national community. Not because we felt like we wanted to use the non-national community for our benefit, but because we recognized that as human beings, they were facing a difficult time, and we wanted to make it a little bit easier, a little bit more affordable. Right? And how many other political parties in Nevis can boast of that? How many other political parties can say that they have reduced the fee for the work permit? In some cases, other political parties have increased. And recently, we learned of a new project in St. James.
Oh, yeah.
And we hinted at it a few weeks ago because I remember CNN, as I told you, Chronic News Network. He put it out. He said, he asked what was going on. You know, he would have followed some people. He realized some unusual activity. To me, he need to be neighborhood watch. He realized some unusual activity, so he paid attention, and he was able to discover or uncover a significant project being undertaken in the St. James community. Not that a project shouldn't happen in St. James, but what was strange is that we didn't know what was happening, and so he brought it to our attention. Thank God for Taiwan, or the persons who manage the page Taiwan in SKN. While we were able to find out what exactly was happening over there in St. James, when we have a minister who is responsible for housing and land, who is also the area representative for St. James, who has been silent. We have a premier and other members of the cabinet who have been silent on that major development. And after persons spoke out about it this week and asked questions, as we should, what is going on, we saw a one-liner on Facebook to say this was in the budget. But what was in the budget? Listen, if you give me information, I don't need to ask you for any. If you give me information, I don't need to ask you for any. But if I have to ask you, Rohan, you can't get offended. It is your duty to let me know what you're doing with my lands. Remember the song and dance about the land for debt swap in St. Kitts and how we are selling out our patrimony? You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
So why isn't there the same level of hype? Why isn't there the same level of excitement and accountability when it comes to our lands over in St. James? Nobody is saying that you can't have a development, but let us know where was the input from the community. I mean, what is happening? How many locals, whether residents or divisions by birth, are employed? How does this redound to the economic benefit of our people, considering that we are in an economic crisis brought on by COVID-19 and the CCM administration? So two economic crises, the CCM crisis and the COVID crisis. So where are we with that? How are we ensuring that our people can benefit, even small, from such a project? Rohan, your thoughts?
Boy, I tell you, what a thing. Listen, nobody's going to escape this one. And we expect not even the Taiwanese going to escape this one. Because I find it strange that the Taiwanese released a statement at this stage at which the development was at.
Oh my goodness! It is nearly done.
Exactly my point. And a lot of things need to be answered. India, I see a Taiwanese company that is registered in St. Kitts and Nevis. A Hong Kong developer that nobody seemed to know who the Hong Kong developer is and who is responsible in Nevis for the Hong Kong developer. Well, Wyndham was in the budget. What would have happened, and we could say what would happen because we know what would happen, should Wyndham have had your project ready to go? In a political climate, and we know how politics go and we know how political parties operate, you need something to push to the people to say that you're doing X, Y, Z. But how come nobody had no groundbreaking ceremony? How come nobody could tell us exactly what the project is?
It's like a secret.
Because I see the one-liner saying Apsara Research and Technology.
Listen,
some stories, but I had to go back to the Taiwanese release because they say a housing project.
Bingo. And what did the budget say?
A research and technology something.
Okay.
So here is it now that the people who really giving the information, telling the division and the Kittitian public, listen, it's a Hong Kong developer who is putting down a housing project in the St. James, and we can't be happier. Well, divisions and Kittitians can't be happy because we have no clue to the real specifics that are about the project. Now here the thing, if that is a housing project, friend, woe be unto those who have condos and all kind of things out there for rentals. Because if a Taiwanese company is building a housing project from a Hong Kong developer,
cost.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
When we're talking cost, let me go down now to fitting the building. Because all of the necessary pieces
will come from there.
Now I want to ask about now what concessions, if any, were given to the developer.
Rohan, we shouldn't have to be asking these questions.
Alright.
We shouldn't have to be. And ladies and gentlemen, you know that we will be back next week. And we will continue to agitate for answers. We will continue because it is all about accountability. And as I wind down, I know there are persons out there who are pushing that, oh, we should be happy because when we go overseas, our people are doing the same. Rohan, I am not disputing that.
But
I have no issue with development and investment here on the island of Nevis and in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. My thing is we have to ensure that our people here who are already struggling can get some relief. And and then everything else comes
Well, we've got to look at the
We
impact.
have to look
We
for
have
our
got to
people.
look at the impact. And I understand people are going to say, yeah, we have people living and working overseas. That is fine, as you said. But what impact is this particular project having on the Division economy and the Division people at this particular time when Divisions are asking and begging for work and those kind of things? The heart of a COVID crisis, CCM crisis, COVID crisis, now we got
condo crisis. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all the time we have for this week's show. Tune in next week when we'll be back with Speak Up right here on the Eastern Caribbean's Powerhouse, Von Radio. Good night.
Join Jaedee Caines and Rohan this and every Thursday on the Caribbean's Powerhouse, Von Radio, for Speak Up, a social commentary talk show that addresses the state of affairs on Nevis. Expect great conversations, different perspectives, and an all-inclusive approach to moving Nevis forward. Tune in. It's time for us to speak up.
The views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcasting Company Limited or